And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody's off to a fabulous start to the week. We got a lot to get into today on the program. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt head coach, will join us at 7:30. Corey Curtis for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock. And Joe, what I'm going to now advocate for all of us moving forward, the beginning and end of my work week today. 1 week or 1 day.
Yeah, the 1 day work week. That's solid, man.
Yeah.
But just imagine if you didn't do today, then you'd be talking about like 9 days in a row off.
That's true.
Should have done that.
I did.
Why didn't you do that?
Because I have some other selective strategic days moving forward here into August and September. But just like
Chase is counting your days. It's freaking take
he's
it
probably,
off.
I mean,
He's
probably
not
not
counting your days.
no.
Whatever. I'm glad you're here for a day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Good
you.
to have you.
We'll have TD in tomorrow and then Paul Kuharski, Nick Keyser's mortal enemy, the rest of the week. Keyser, how we feeling?
You thought you had 4 days of Kuharski, but you only have 3 days
you only
of
have 3.
Kuharski.
That's okay. Yeah, I'll be fine with that.
Okay.
No doubt. Yeah, we'll have a fun time without Robby this week.
I hope so.
Okay.
Hope you guys have a great time.
I would assume that you'd have a better time with Butterbeer, right? I don't know if that's where you guys are going or not. But...
I'm not going anywhere.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I'm just hanging
right.
out. But
Ah.
if I were going down there to have some butterbeer in Orlando,
Uh-huh.
I'd have a great time. Yeah,
Butterbeer. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said Butterbean, which is, I think,
a wrestler.
was a wrestler.
I do not want to encounter Butterbean
Yeah.
on vacation.
I'm like a little stopped up, Joe, so I guess I could have passed off for that too.
But you stay in there. What? You stay in there. Don't you move.
You all right?
Don't get me sick on vacation.
Yeah, I just had a little bit of like an allergy thing over
Oh,
the
okay.
weekend.
When you said a little
Yeah.
bit stopped up, I took
No.
that differently. Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay, good. Yeah. Don't eat too much cheese.
Off to a roaring start.
Yeah.
This morning.
Yikes,
I like it.
cheese.
We also came maybe to a conclusion here, Rexrode. Keyser told me, David James backed him up. I think the headphone mover and shaker in here is a combination of Nick Frazier and Willie Donick. That's the information I was being fed this morning by a couple of sources.
Okay.
Nick Frazier, Willie Donick, the headphone movers.
Okay. No, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people, it just, it's weird when people, if a bunch of seats being used, then things get moved. I get that. But if people like sit here, then they choose the single ear. That's what I never understood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So good to know, though. I mean, Forrest Company, there's a lot of dudes, you know,
A lot of different
dudes,
options.
A lot of dudes in that show.
No
4,
doubt about
in
that.
fact.
4. There's no doubt about it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Again, our text line's back, baby. So if you missed that on Friday, our text line's back in there. So hit us with your text messages, your phone calls, the YouTube chat, still living on. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Did you see the Copa America stuff last night? So Argentina and Colombia were playing down in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins play. And before the game, basically, security got overrun. And from what I heard, a lot of this security was like not what the normal security is there. It goes through the Copa America stuff, and apparently just did not go well. So there was people outside of the gate that basically just rushed into the stadium. They eventually just let them all in as a free-for-all and then closed the gates at some point. And there were people on the outside that had paid, in some cases, hundreds, in some cases, thousands of dollars for tickets that did not make it inside the building for the match, that were highly upset about it outside, understandably so. And then inside the building, it was like an unbelievable amount of people. They broke the escalator in one of the club levels up at Hard Rock Stadium. A wild scene last night for the Copa America final, in which, by the way, Argentina won 1-0 over Colombia.
So you're telling me that random people just rushed the gates and got in, but people who spent a ton of money didn't get in?
That's what I'm telling you.
Good God.
Got it free, just running in.
Yeah, they might need to work on their event management a little bit.
I would say so.
Also, yesterday, a big day for Spain. Speaking of
Big day for Spain.
Speaking of football, tough day for England. Sorry, England.
Carlos Alcaraz winning Wimbledon, taking down Novak Djokovic again in the final. So big day for him. And then Spain taking down England as well. So if you're a fan of Spain, a Spaniard, as they say. Big day for you yesterday.
Yeah, Alcaraz is he's
He's the next guy.
He's gonna need the next guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's gonna go on a run.
He's the next guy. And, Djokovic had surgery on his knee like 5 weeks ago. So the fact that he got to the final was pretty outstanding. But
Like
you
a
could
scope or something more than that.
it was like I can't remember if it was a meniscus or what it was, but it was like he got surgery, and a lot of people didn't expect him to get to the final. And then you could see it pretty quickly yesterday, like when I think the first two were 6-2, 6-2 for Alcaraz, and he was playing great, but Djokovic just didn't quite have it yesterday.
Fought back in the third set.
Yeah, fought back in the third set.
Got the tie break.
But Alcaraz was just too much. But yeah, I think he's kind of like that next guy. Like I've said it before, and maybe I shouldn't make like grand statements like this. I doubt very seriously in that sport we're ever going to see again 3 people at the same time being at the highest level of Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. Like it's pretty difficult to imagine that we're going to see something like that again, but maybe. I don't know, maybe Alcaraz and some other people step up to be that.
And yet I still long for the days of McEnroe, Lendl, and Becker.
Yeah.
You know?
It goes in waves,
And
baby.
that's Vilander.
I mean, McEnroe's still heavily involved up there.
He is. He's got a great
Both.
he's got a great
Both
leisure
McEnroes.
suit. That's for sure.
He does. He does. No doubt about that. The MLB draft yesterday as well. Chase Burns going at number 2 overall. So the former Vol going number 2, Station Camp high school product, and then Christian Moore going at number 8 overall last night. Tony Vitello was on the MLB Network coverage, and there was a pretty funny moment between him and Christian Moore was getting interviewed after being drafted, and then he just shouted out Vitello, and Vitello put his hands up in the air on TV. It was pretty funny. But Christian Moore going in the top 10 last night. We talked about like the idea that and this happened.
And there was a lot of people pushing
the idea of like him sliding either out of the first round entirely or late into the first round. And I was like, I don't know about that. He's pretty darn good. And turns out he's pretty darn good. He went in the top 10.
Yeah, that's good to see. And I do think that Omaha might have helped him. I mean, maybe not. The guy can mash. You know, I mean, I understand like defensively, where does he fit? And you know, he was a little bit of an adventure at second base, but okay. you are going to you're going to go high. So I was glad to see that. Also, just imagine if, you know, number 2 overall pick Chase Burns was on this Tennessee team.
Yeah.
So you also had what? Blake Burke, 34.
Blake Burke to Milwaukee, and then Dylan Dreiling got drafted to the Twins.
Rangers.
Yes, Rangers. He was the Rangers.
Billy Amick.
And Billy Amick goes to the Twins.
Yeah, to the Twins. So
big night for the Vols.
That's about So basically, I would say everyone you would have expected. So we still have Kavaris Tears. No,
I did not see that Tears got drafted.
I gotta say, we'll see, man. We'll see where things go. I really think that he has massive upside as a player. I really do. I thought that would land him in the draft by now.
Yeah,
I can't imagine it would be much longer.
I would imagine. I mean, look, the MLB draft. Admittedly, I don't sit there and just watch it every year.
Well, I was watching some last night, and they tried their darndest now to make it just like the
really
other drafts.
do.
They got what's his name up there? You know,
I had a really close friend of mine get drafted back in 2016 or 20. I guess it was 2014, 2015, somewhere back in there. Anyway, yeah, 2014, and it was different because like I was just with him, and we were at my house, and he got drafted in like the 6th round. So like at that time, there's like 30 some odd rounds. I don't know how many rounds there are now. I guess it's the same, but it's just it's a different type of draft than
there's so much of it.
It's just so much of.
But they've tried to make the early part of it, and I get it. I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I would too. And I did catch some of it last night, and as you would expect, Tony Vitello on TV is pretty good.
Yeah, you know what I found out is that YouTube TV doesn't have MLB. We don't have MLB TV. We don't have NHL Network either, which stinks. But this is the first, because I was like, I wanted to watch that. I see you get the fur coat on, but I had to watch ESPN coverage.
Yeah, exactly.
I assume he was pretty good.
He was pretty good stuff. I mean, as you would expect for Vitello and his personality. Like, I guess on TV, you got to be a little bit more careful than normal if you're Tony Vitello, but
Yeah.
he did a nice job.
Okay, that's good. Anything really funny?
Not really. Just the fur coat stuff was pretty good.
Yeah, but he kept it on the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, good for him.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Lots to get into on the program today. We'll get into the Titans coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. As we said, Clark Lee, Vanderbilt head coach, will be with us at 7:30. We got a Rob rant for you today. Corey Curtis at 8 o'clock. Lots ahead. Coming up next, we'll get into a little college football. Are you actually excited about this year in the SEC with no divisions, Texas and Oklahoma coming in? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you make of the idea? 615-737-1025. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game, broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. The YouTube chat also open as well. Somebody is already asking Nick why he hates PK. My work here is done.
So the YouTube chat's going. Okay, I'll get that going. But Twitter now, you have to have a premium subscription.
Yeah, we have to get the.
Was that announced?
We have to get the It's the premium subscription to have the
stream
our stream of our program.
Right.
So
okay,
whatever platform we use. Don't worry, the suit's coming back today.
Huh?
We'll get him to take care of it.
You think he should pay it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many people?
Not my money. So yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, sure. I guess. Like, well, how much does that cost?
I don't know.
Premium sounds expensive.
It does. Maybe we'll get Keezer to pay it. Keezer, instead of the pizza that you owe us, just pay the premium stream.
Yeah, so
I
from
don't
the
care if we're streamed. I want the pizza. Actually, you don't.
the pizza
only have
does
to pay
sound
for
pretty
Robby's.
good.
You don't have to pay for Robby's.
Yeah, I like that idea. I just bought my new Xbox this weekend too, so I am not
In
interested.
anticipation for something happening a little bit later this week.
That and a few other games as
Okay.
well that I've been wanting. So
When is that?
I waited a long time.
I know we're going to get into that.
Today is when you can play the deluxe version, right?
If you've ordered, ordered deluxe, you can play it today. I
It's-
did not.
yeah.
I just wait until
I'm
Friday.
waiting until then. Actually,
Friday's the day.
the guy at the store told me come Thursday night at 7 and I'll give you a hard copy since you pre-ordered it. And I was
Ooh.
like, oh, okay.
We'll get into that a little bit later in the program. But a big week for many of us nerds
Yeah.
out there.
A lot of people excited.
A lot of people very excited. Speaking of excited, are people actually excited about what this year in the SEC is going to look like? There is the baseline of, like, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're excited to watch Tennessee play, obviously. Vanderbilt fan, you're excited to watch Vanderbilt play. So I get all that. Like, everybody, for the most part, loves college football. We all love college football. All that's great. Do you actually like the format that we're headed to with no divisions this year, with Texas and Oklahoma joining the conference? Do you think it's going to lead to a better overall product? That is kind of the heart at what I'm getting at here. If you're out there, 615-737-1025. So Joe Rexrode, let's ask you, no divisions this year in the SEC. We have Texas and Oklahoma coming in for the moment, although hopefully this is changing sometime in the not too distant future. It's still an 8-game conference schedule in the SEC rather than the 9. And I think both of us agree we need to get to 9 as quickly as humanly possible. What do you make of where we're headed this year and what it's actually going to mean in terms of the quality of football we see from this conference heading into this season?
Well, I like no divisions. And all, who still has divisions? The ACC still.
I
still
believe
doing, right? They're
the
still doing
ACC still
the
does.
Atlantic, whatever,
And whatever
heck
the
they're-
Big 12 has turned into, I don't know if they've got divisions or not.
Yeah, I don't think so. Obviously, they haven't recently because they were much smaller, and now
Yes.
they're much bigger. And there is, by the way, there's Florida State, Clemson talk out there.
There is.
There are people out there who believe that actually could happen for the Big 12, which is interesting. But yeah, no, they don't have divisions. Okay, so the ACC. I mean, I'm just looking at the standings on ESPN.com, and they don't have it broken into divisions. Does that mean they got rid of divisions too? Maybe they did. I like no divisions, and I've said this a million times before. I'll just keep saying it. I love that we go to the Pac-12, the 2 teams. They should have divisions. The Oregon State division, the Washington State division.
I agree.
But I like that, and I also think it should lead to no SEC championship game. I don't.
Are they having a Pac-12 title game this year?
They'll just play each other week after week after week.
Our 7-game series.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
college football.
Yeah, and you settle it for real. So I like no divisions, but look, ultimately, is the product good? Like, I'm excited for some of the games that will result from this. I'm excited for Texas and Oklahoma to be in the league and play Tennessee and Alabama and LSU and Georgia. I mean, that's exciting, but also this is why I really think they should get rid of the title game. The imbalanced schedule, especially with 8. I mean, it's not like 9's going to fix it. 9's still going to be bad, but at least be like the Big 10. I mean, I'm for 10. Do 10. Then you have, equal number of games, but equal number of home and road games. It's just like there's just going to be such because some years your schedule is even going to be more loaded than you might even think going into the season. We've talked about Florida's schedule. It's insane what they're looking at. But some on a given year, even, somebody's schedule might be even easier or even harder than it looks going in. And then somebody else's is so different. It's just stupid. It's stupid to have leagues this big that don't make geographical sense. So I just will keep coming back to that. But I'm ready for the football. The football's not stupid,
I mean, there are some big time games this year in the SEC, and we get that every year. I mean, look, Alabama and LSU have played every year, and back in the day, we know Tennessee and Florida was a premium matchup in college football in the late '90s, early 2000s. So we've gotten these games in the SEC, but there are a ton of it. Go look at it this year. I mean, there's a ton of them. Georgia is playing Alabama. You got Texas coming in the fold. Tennessee, Oklahoma is going to be a big one. There's a lot of really, really good games on the schedule. So I really like that. It's interesting if you're like a Tennessee fan. I think Georgia and Alabama probably excluded from this conversation a little bit just because they've been there so often. But if you're a fan that has watched SEC football for a long time and you have grown to really appreciate and or care about the conference title game, it's harder to get there technically now. I mean, all you had to do recently was, and I say all you had to do if it was some easy task, but all you had to do was win your division and you were there. You didn't necessarily have to be the second best team in the SEC.
Right.
And now you do. You have to be the second best team in the SEC or the first best team, or have the tiebreakers fall your way.
And just wait till we get in the tiebreakers.
Yeah.
It's, I guess it's just another level of arguing, which is part of what we love about college football. So add another reason to argue. But there will be, if they're just going to keep this going, and I mean, again, I see the potential for the playoff to go certainly to 16, right?
Yeah.
And as you keep going that way down the road to the playoff, I think these conference championship games have to get smoked. Which
is sad to me. But
yeah. And that's the thing.
In
the SEC, that's where it's interesting. And the Big Ten, it's a decade. Okay, fine. You can get rid of it. The SEC, it's a tradition of more than 30 years now.
Yeah.
But tradition, of course, has been trampled left and right.
But I agree with you because, I would argue, and some people agree with this, some people disagree with it. I would argue that actually winning the conference championship has already been devalued by the 14 playoff. It's about to get really devalued with 12 and then eventually going to 14 because, you get to say, oh, cool, we're the SEC champions. It's also just another game you have to play, right? It's another game. And I know if you're good enough to win the SEC, you're probably in the conversation for that first round bye in the playoffs. So maybe it ends up evening out at the end of the day. So maybe you're not. Maybe there's a team, I don't know, that is good. They win the SEC title. And I don't know. It's just the amount of games that you're going to have to play now. And then we'll see as you move forward. If it continues to expand, the path to get to a national champion, I just think that the game, the conference title itself is going to matter less and less as we move forward.
That is the one thing about getting rid of the divisions, because with the division format, you definitely could have that, the LSU team for a couple of years ago that gets hot, gets to Atlanta, they would not have had the bye,
right?
Had they won. So at least with no divisions, you would think that whoever
should be pretty good,
the top two. But there could be a weird tiebreaker. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that you could get hosed and have to play that and then play another one. And if you win the SEC championship by tiebreaker, which of course would be the scenario if you don't have a championship game, that makes it even less exciting, right?
It does. Yes.
But again, if you're going to make conferences this big, then you can't possibly have any semblance of equity with your scheduling.
Yeah. I mean, that's I, as a college football fan, I am excited that Texas and Oklahoma are in the SEC. I think, when you could bring two programs in like that, I think it's really cool. Now, I also subscribe to the theory of like I don't want the SEC to one day be, 30 teams. Like and I don't know if we're going to get there or not, but I didn't know that we'd get to this point either. And it looks like we may not be stopping, right? Like Florida State and Clemson are going to end up somewhere. I don't know where it's going to be, whether it's the Big 12, whether the ACC makes a move to keep the band together, whether the SEC gets involved. Because, I mean, geographically, Clemson and Florida State make a lot of sense in the SEC, more so than we see. But we know that geography just doesn't really matter a whole lot anymore.
Yeah. But, I mean, the SEC is at least, unlike the Big Ten, right? I mean, the SEC, is everybody still connected? Is everybody connected? You know what I mean? In other words, is there at least a state connection between everybody? Because obviously the Big Ten is just now all over.
I think everybody.
The Big Ten goes Rutgers to freaking Oregon and UCLA,
which is just
completely stupid.
Yeah, I think there's full connection.
So geographically, it still makes more sense than some of these leagues, and the Big 12 is now also totally dumb. But yeah, you also have mouths to feed. So Florida, how much value is brought versus now you're splitting up those checks even more.
Yep.
That's why I think that's why this Big 12 stuff kind of makes sense, because I can see the SEC being like, yeah, I mean, they're good, but we're already in Florida, and I mean, yeah, we got South Carolina, got Beamer ball.
I mean,
what else do we need?
We could be not that far away from Dion, Mike Gundy, and Dabo all at the same media day. That'd be something.
Wow.
Maybe Big 12 media day would be fun then.
Maybe it would be.
You could go.
That's quite a thought. Yeah, I might have to go to one of those.
Speaking
of which, SEC Media Days this week.
This week, baby. 615-737-1025. What do you make of the way we're headed in college football with the SEC? Are you excited about Texas and Oklahoma coming in? Are you excited about the elimination of division? 615-737-1025. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We were going through the big games in the SEC. Lance texted us, said, don't forget Texas at Vandy. Texas is coming in here. We'll get Clark Lee's thoughts on all that.
Are you being sarcastic, Lance?
I don't know.
Are you trying to be funny, Lance? That is a big game.
I have no idea what Vanderbilt's going to look like. They got a pretty new squad here. They may be able to give Texas a run.
Of course, that is one of those. It's funny because on my honeymoon in New Orleans, Texas played at Tulane that weekend.
Okay.
It was nothing but Texas fans in New Orleans. Like nothing but Texas fans in New Orleans. I imagine they'll probably bring a couple people for that one. Like first time, go to Nashville for the weekend. Yeah. I mean, a lot of fan bases bring a lot of people. So, but yeah, that Texas, that burnt orange, man.
Where do we think the Texas fan base is going to stack up in terms of most hated fan bases in the SEC? I mean, as we know, Tennessee is up there. They are a strong contender. Georgia, I mean, anybody who does a lot of winning, I think gets automatically put on the list.
For sure.
And anybody who's got a large fan base. So we know Georgia's got a pretty good sized fan base. Alabama, obviously. Tennessee. Texas has a massive fan base. Where do we think the Longhorn Twitter, the Longhorn, whatever you want to call them, is going to stack up? There's a lot of barking back and forth between Tennessee and Texas fans already.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because they don't play this year.
Yeah. I'd like to ask Mike Herndon he's a Texas guy. Like, how is Longhorn Twitter, Texas Twitter?
I would imagine it's pretty.
Yeah, I'm
pretty
sure
spicy.
Sure. I mean, you have enough people, and that's also there are some parallels with Tennessee. The long suffering.
Yeah.
The difference is like Texas is kind of more like Notre Dame and Michigan. I know Michigan just won it all, so that you can probably remove them, I guess. But like we're supposed to be great. We think we're great, but you're really not great.
Right.
Whereas Tennessee has been more, oh my God, we suck again. And look at this goofball, another goofball as a head coach, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
A little bit different.
Although Sark.
Texas is about to be insufferable because they're actually good again.
Yeah. They're good. Like Sark, obviously it's been an interesting path for him, but I think he's a good coach. I think Sarkisian's a really good coach.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
I think, some of the stuff in his past he has clearly learned from, and he's done a pretty good job down there at Texas, both with recruiting, but some in-game. I mean, one of the most impressive wins of the entire year last year was, and I realized that Alabama team was not as loaded as some of the other Alabama teams just in terms of the full package. But walking into Tuscaloosa is not an easy thing to do, and they dominated that game.
No, they did. Yeah, like Alabama ended up figuring it out, so Texas got them at the right time.
Yeah.
Because was it the next week that Ben went to South Florida and tried all their QBs and almost lost that game? Yeah, so. But no, Sark is very good. There is no doubt about it. So I think they're going to be. And again, it's like I keep starting to say this about teams, and then it's like, oh, yeah, that doesn't matter anymore. I was about to say, they're going to be in the playoff like pretty, I think, consistently. But it's like, well, of course they are now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're Texas, you don't make the 12 team now. That's a problem. But that's true of a few programs.
A few programs. Keith in Bowling Green says, what about Mark Stoops being the senior coach in the SEC now? That is wild to think about with Saban and Gallon.
That's a great point. That is a great point, Keith. Yeah, it's wild, and I don't know off the top of my head what exactly that number is, but he's been there a long time, and he's still there, and it's been good. They've kind of settled in as like a nice, real solid program, more than I ever would have thought Kentucky could be. But yeah, who after that is there just isn't. There's not a lot of long-term coaching in this league, right? Everybody's a few years. I mean Kirby's probably the next, right?
Yeah, be Kirby.
And he started in 2016.
Yep.
And lost to Vandy, by the way, in that first year.
He did.
And I was like, oh, this Kirby's smart. Oh,
Tennessee.
Terrible. Another terrible Saban assistant hire by Georgia. Terrible. It's not going to work out. Sorry, Bulldogs.
You got beat by Butch Jones.
That's right. Got beat by Butch Jones. And although that was a day, Tennessee was supposed to go in there and, win, and they really shouldn't have.
Yes.
Yeah. Juwan Jennings. Thanks to Juwan Jennings, Vols fans. But
yeah,
that's
crying
wild.
on the field after. That's when I knew we might be in trouble.
Because if
Oh boy.
the thing is, right before that, Georgia hit basically a Hail
Yeah.
Mary, like an absolutely inexcusable touchdown to give up. Yeah, there's just like it's like Stoops, Kirby, and then very recent with everybody else. Like it's within the last probably 4 years, right? That
Yeah.
everybody else. Correct me if I'm wrong. What year is this for Beamer?
I think it's 4.
This is year 4.
I think so.
It's right around there or less for like everybody else in the league. But I guess that's sort of like the state of college football too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a lot of turnover everywhere you look. I mean, this is year 4 for Beamer. So.
Year 4 for Beamer, year 4 for Clark Lee,
Yep.
who we'll have on in less than an hour.
Heupel.
From Texas, year 4 for Heupel. A lot of coaching changes around 4 years ago.
Yes, there was. a lot of turnover in the conference. Yeah, like the other, there's interest obviously for no other reason than them coming over, but like Oklahoma is a big kind of swing team in the SEC this year. I don't know how good they're going to be. Like Brent Venables, I think is a good coach, but they have not been what you're used to seeing from Oklahoma, right? Like they under Bob Stoops certainly, but certainly, I mean, he continued under Lincoln Riley, were a playoff contender every year, and now you're coming in the SEC. I think they're over under win total on FanDuel 7.5, so they're going to be good. You talk about swing games for Tennessee too, by the way. Like that's a huge one. I think that's where it starts. Is that one in Norman? So what exactly are they going to be heading into this year? Can they be a factor? And how is that Tennessee Oklahoma game going to affect the type of year that Nico and the Vols have? Going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a huge game for Tennessee. Obviously, you got the whole sideshow of Heupel going home and all that went down when he got fired and he kind of got scapegoated for their issues and now coming back home.
And I believe that will be the first SEC game in Norman as well, which is going to be rocking down there.
Yeah. And they've got a young QB. I mean, they could be really good. I'd never buy. I mean, Oklahoma's got talent. They've always got talent. What's a better program, Oklahoma or Texas?
I mean, if you want to go the last 25 years, it's I think pretty clearly been Oklahoma, right?
Oh yeah, but just in general, right now, what's a better program?
I mean, Oklahoma just beat them last year too.
I mean, Oklahoma has. Really
I think I would go Oklahoma.
Them.
Yeah,
I would too. It's a better program. I mean, they might not have the better team this year, and I do think I think Texas has a better coach. So I've judged it like that too. I mean, we'll see with Venables. Rough start.
It was.
It's gotten better, but yeah, Oklahoma. As long as if you have the right coach, I don't know, man. They've been pretty consistent since Stoops turned it around from the 90s debacles that they had going on there. They've been about as consistent as anyone.
Well, I've said it. Like if you're Georgia and Kirby Smart and the train that he's got rolling right now, I don't know how much the addition of Texas and Oklahoma is going to affect you. Like it's tougher, but they got that.
You only play 8 games.
That's the thing. Like you got that thing. It's such a well-oiled machine right now that Georgia is going to be a factor for as long as Kirby Smart is there. We know that. If you're Tennessee, if you're Florida, programs like that, like your job this year immediately becomes harder with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. Now there's opportunity there, and again, I think it's a really good thing that both teams are coming into the league. But there's no doubt that your job has become more difficult with 2 outstanding programs now joining what was already the best conference in college football.
Yeah. But in a given year, you might play neither of them, and they're going to try to make these schedules, I think, as balanced as possible. But it's again, when you have the league this big, it's just like, oh, we play them this year. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're all just trying to get in the playoff, and then you go from there.
I mean, the good news is you'll be at some of these places. Like, wasn't it? It was Texas A&M, and I can't remember which team they play. I think it may have been like Georgia, but they hadn't been there since they came into the league.
It was
Texas.
It was Texas A&M, Georgia.
Yeah.
Right.
And they came there like it was last year. It was like the first time
Yes.
they got there.
It's only going to get more like that.
Yeah.
It's just, again, that's not, that's why leagues used to be, 8, 10 teams.
Right.
Close to each other. You could drive, stuff like that.
Well, I look
Makes
for.
sense.
Do Rutgers and like USC play this year? Is this going to be like an immediate cross country battle? The beginning of a new rivalry, maybe?
That is a good question. I don't know. I'm sure Rutgers. I'm sure Rutgers plays one of those teams from out west, right?
I mean, I would think so.
Just absurd. I mean, look at the Big Ten.
They play Washington on September the 27th at
wonderful.
home. So Washington's got to make that nice cross country jaunt out there to Rutgers.
And I've been in that stadium on a game day in Piscataway, New Jersey.
I'm sure it's electric.
James Gandolfini was there that day too.
Really?
They beat Michigan State. Big day. Big day for Greg Schiano.
And UCLA too. So Rutgers, they do have to go to USC. So it's all sorts of cross country travel taking place in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, if you ever think the SEC is stupid, just look at the Big Ten.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will answer the question once and for all coming up next. Is Joe Rexrode a certified boomer? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Is Joe Rexrode a certified boomer? That's the question we're attempting to answer in this segment here today. So, Joe, I feel like this has now become an annual tradition that I certainly look forward to every year. And it really has nothing to do with the uniform release themselves. It really has more to do with you and the reaction that I know will be coming once this happens. So there was a lot of anticipation last week on Vol Twitter. The rumors had gotten out that the next iteration of the smoky gray uniform was going to be released. And it finally was on Saturday morning. Tennessee football came out with what they're going to wear at some point this year, the smoky gray. I mean, it's gray enough in the photo where it basically almost looks black, but I guess it is gray.
Yeah, I didn't think it was smoky gray.
Yeah, it's smoky gray. There's Tennessee lettering across the the front, which I believe is the first time they've ever had a jersey that actually says Tennessee on it, and just there's the power T over top of it. They've got like the TriStar on the shoulder. I like it. I don't know that I would like it for more than one game, but I like it. It was cool. I saw some Tennessee friends of mine say, "Whoo, I may go get that." I'm sorry, probably not going to do that. Probably not going to order the jersey because I'm not a huge jersey guy anyway. But I thought it was a nice,
That's what it's all about.
clean look for Tennessee. Clearly, I think we've seen enough from Heupel at this point to know that they're going to do this every year and that they're going to continue to design new jerseys that recruits and the team loves, and they'll find a way to wear them at least once, probably twice. They may wear them twice. We'll see what happens this year. But I know that each year they come out with one of these jerseys, you're going to hate it. So what did you think of the jersey release that Tennessee had the other day?
Yeah, I mean, I hate some more than others. Like some of these things have been horrific. Yeah, on its own, if you look at the jersey, just look at for what it is. Like the stars are kind of cool. It's fine. I just if a team has a cool jersey and a brand and like this is their tradition, I would rather them wear that.
Yeah.
Like I've said this before. It's like you take a picture. You take your kids to the game and you take a picture, and then like 20 years later, people are like, "So who are those football teams? What team did you go see? What was that? Who was that?" It's just marketing crap. So you can call me a boomer. I mean, look, I'm Gen X. The oldest Gen X people, are 60 right now.
Yeah.
That's very depressing. I'm not close to that, by the way. So, but that's fine. I mean, I understand it's for recruiting everything. Also, it's to sell more jerseys.
Sure.
And I mean, how many programs don't do this? Ohio State resisted this for a long time, which I respected.
Well, Alabama does not do it.
They don't do it at all.
I have not seen Alabama do this. Not yet.
That makes sense. Now that you say it, that totally makes sense. You know what? Tip of the cap to Alabama. Don't mess this up, Kalen.
Georgia has
Don't mess this up, Kalen.
Georgia's they've had, the black uniform that I thought looked pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, all these like black uniforms, they all look the same to me. And I understand it's like, like you're the Raiders and it's more intimidating. Like Tennessee's black uniforms are so dumb. What that was in fact, they played Kentucky in those.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you look like candy corn. You want to play football looking like candy corn? See, you're going to get me all mad now. It doesn't
They won
matter.
that game by about 45 points.
Yeah, well, great. And then they mixed and they jumped into a bowl of some peanuts, and then someone took a handful of them and ate them for Halloween.
No, they wore the black uniform with the white helmet, which was a terrible look the year before that. I think in the Georgia game, and that did not go well.
Yeah.
Didn't go very well.
I think Tennessee's uniforms are awesome. Orange jerseys, white pants. Not orange and orange. You don't want to look like a creamsicle. Again, you're looking like all the candy of my youth. Just go with your uniform. If I go to a big game, I would like to this goes back to the first year I was on Twitter, and I was late getting on Twitter. I mean, I got in so many fights with so many Michigan State fans about this because they came out and they played Michigan. These stupid, they look like little army men.
Yep.
Dumb Nike, whatever the heck those are called.
It's like Nike
Pro Combat.
Yeah.
Brr, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
And then Michigan is in their normal jerseys, and then they go in the locker room and they come out looking like bumblebees with these stupid. I'm like, this is a great uniform game normally. It's a great contrast, the blue and the green. Look at this crap. What are we watching here?
I remember that.
It's just stupid. Kirk Cousins out there.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't stand it. But I understand it's marketing, and yeah, sure, recruits. I don't know. Alabama seems to be okay. I'm glad you told me Alabama doesn't do it. Now I'm an Alabama fan. They seem to be recruiting okay without doing something stupid to their uniforms.
They do. The thing is, like, I think Tennessee fans like it, generally speaking. If they did it more than like once a year, twice max with Tennessee fans, like that's kind of where I fall. You want to do it once a year? Okay, whatever. That's fine. You start to do it much more than that, and I start to fall into your camp of, hey, guys, you got pretty good uniforms the way they are. Just go back to wearing those. That's fine.
And I just think
like even the orange helmet they pulled out there the other year, even before, they got sandblasted by South Carolina and had those orange helmets on. I was like, just wear the white helmet.
And I personally, if I was a coach, I'd be like, can we wear these for like when we play, UMass?
Kent State.
Yeah, because for a big game, I want like my the vintage stuff. Someone's asked me, since when does candy corn have black? Yeah, I don't know why, but it just seems like candy corn to me. But that's a fair point. Candy corn is just orange and white. I don't know. I don't know why I thought candy corn, but they look like what's the is it like toffee, peanut butter toffee?
Sure.
It comes like in Halloween in the back, the black wrapping and the orange.
Yeah.
How about that?
There you go. What's your favorite? Because I like the Vandy when they've got like the gold tied in there. I kind of like it. What's your favorite Vandy? Is it just the black uniform, white pants? What's your favorite look they've got?
They've had some good combos. And the thing about Vandy is, I like the gold, but I like some like with the black jerseys. Vandy has some good combos, and they've had enough variants where it's like, Tennessee, it's like this is the uniform. Alabama, this is the uniform. Vanderbilt's changed enough where it's like just do a cool combination. I mean, it's not quite like I was going to say it's not quite like Oregon, but Oregon made a tradition of guess what our uniform will be this week, and that's fine.
Yeah,
because before they started doing all that stuff, I thought their uniforms were ugly. So, so that's fine. So Vanderbilt's kind of in that. I can't remember a Vanderbilt uniform where it was like, oh my God, what are you doing?
No, like I think they've got a good.
Yeah, you get good color scheme anyway with black and gold.
Do you think the new Vanderbilt logo has grown on people? Because people were really upset about the star being gone when it happened.
I mean, it's
very
fine.
mad.
From the start, I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't. And again, like they changed from something that hadn't even been there that long anyway.
I know.
So I think, but of course, if they lose a big game or whatever, then that'll be tied into the complaint and the logo. Rebecca says Harvest Corn has brown. Okay. I don't know why I thought of candy corn. It's really weird. Someone says Joe is really showing his age, clutching to his white New Balances. I do not wear New Balances.
I could see you wearing some New Balances.
I got Nikes on. Okay, isn't that cool? They're lame white walking Nikes for an old man, but they are Nikes.
Joe, this is a big week in the landscape of college football. College football 25 coming out this week.
Speaking of showing my age,
the new next gen video game models. I, for one, will be playing it at some point this week. I'm looking forward to it. There's not been a college football game released in more than 10 years. So out of this NIL new era stuff that we're in, I think very positive development has come out. Arch Manning has even decided to be in it late in the game. So,
players getting paid is a positive development.
I guess he tried to lead a movement of not being in the game and then ultimately came back into it. But
the movement was, you're going to pay me more to be in the game.
So you're going to do that.
So Uncle Eli and I are going to do a cool commercial for it now.
He's like a 88 overall or something that's never
back up
played. But
sure.
There is that.
What's Quinn Ewers?
I think he's in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. You probably have the starter who
he's going to play.
Should be higher than him.
There is that. Do we think this going to be a big week of like testing marriages? Like I know my wife is already not very excited about this thing coming out. I've been trying to lay the groundwork and prepare her for this for 3-4 weeks now. So big week coming up in college football. A lot of people going to be playing college football 25. I mean,
is this why you took off the week?
I mean, it's not why, but after I did it, I did think about, not a bad decision by you, man.
So Friday, at what time can you start playing?
I don't know. There's a chance I may talk myself into the
deluxe
version.
Okay.
Just go ahead and do it.
How much more is the deluxe version?
I think it's like $30 more, which is potentially. I mean,
what do you get with it other than earlier start?
I don't know.
Nick, do you know? No, he doesn't care.
Oh, he's looking it up.
Oh, he's looking it up.
Yeah.
All right.
I know the regular version is like $69.99. I think the deluxe version is $99.99.
Okay, which you can still play like dynasty mode with either of them, and okay, yeah. Look, I'm excited for all of you who are excited about this. I was way out of video games, like I was.
A lot of people very pumped up about this.
Yeah, no, it looks cool. I mean, a bunch of my coworkers are like, out of their mind. David Ubbin is going to lose his mind. He's on maternity leave or paternity leave with their second baby, and like he's just going to play this 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And he's just. I've looked at some of the features. I've seen some little.
It
clips
looks awesome.
It looks awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like to me, it's too complicated to play. I don't want to play that. I want to play Tecmo Bowl
Bring
and
me
have
back
2
Tecmo
buttons.
Bowl.
I want 2 buttons and a little thing that I can move my guy. I can pick some plays. But you guys all have fun.
Well,
we asked
Boomer
the
Joe.
question to begin the
Hashtag Boomer
segment.
Joe.
Was Joe Rexrode a boomer?
He's a major boomer.
And we
for
can now
sure.
answer it in the affirmative at the end of it.
Yep.
Yep.
Also, the main difference between the regular version, which I got that I will be picking up on Thursday night, and the deluxe version is literally the 3-day difference. And you get, apparently, you get 4,600 college football points
Sure.
to your profile, I
There you go.
guess. So
So it's really just
It's
3
really
days.
just to get it 3 days early.
yeah, you
I don't
just
know if
get
I
it
can
3
justify
days.
that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Maybe I
Wow.
can, though.
Yeah,
Has
that's
to begin tonight.
deluxe version. Deluxe version tells me, you get to
There's got to be
like
something else.
you get a special like Nick Saban message. All right, now thanks for playing.
Appreciate you
something.
buying this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
Supporting our student athletes. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. Michael in Madison says, as a deluxe edition owner, I cannot lie. I'm very excited to be able to play today, right when I get home from work. I think a lot of people feel that way.
There you go.
They're going to make some money off this one. I have no doubt.
They are.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get into the Titans coming up next. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt head coach, will join us at 7:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee will be with us later this hour at 7:30. Corey Curtis from News 2 joining us for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock. And taking your thoughts, phone and text lines, YouTube chat, open for business here on Robby and Rexrode. Joe, Nick Keyser was nice enough to print out the Titans 2024 training camp schedule.
It was nice of him.
Which is beginning a week from tomorrow. 1 week from tomorrow, training camp is here. Is that exciting news? What do we think?
Well,
because then we get
Titans
training camp,
yeah.
and then there's not real football for another month.
Yeah, I know it's such a long time too. You go, it's a little earlier than I thought. So my initial reaction was, oh God, next week. I mean, on the one hand, we'll have more to talk about, so that's good. On the other hand, when Titans camp starts, to me, it's like, it's like summer's over.
Yeah.
And shoot, I mean, I think the kids are going back to school August 5th, right? Like it's insane.
Yeah.
I feel like summer is 2 weeks. So it's mixed feelings, but you start up on the 23rd, and then your first game is not until September 8th or whatever. What's the 7th, what's the day of the
8th,
over? Yeah,
something.
Man, that is a long time of just wondering about a team and talking to a team and watching a team practice. There is that preseason opener against the Niners on August 10th. So then there'll be a little bit more glimpse. And Brian Callahan has talked about valuing seeing some starters in preseason games. So I do think that Titans fans especially Titans fans who pay any money to get into that stadium to watch preseason games, are at least going to be able to see some of the players they want to see maybe a little bit more.
The anti-Vrabel. Maybe he'll play the starters a quarter,
I don't know. I mean, look, I think there's risk, and I would probably be more Vrabel-like. There is risk, but also like new offensive line. I can see the value in, okay, go out there and actually block the other team for a few series and try to work together and see how that looks. And Levis, go out there with some people trying to tackle you. But again, it'll be interesting. I mean, I guess for the sake of fans and I guess for us, it'd be great if they play more. It's just that you get someone hurt and now all of a sudden your philosophy could change like that if you're Brian Callahan, right?
What do you think is going to be the most over-discussed topic in Titans training camp this year? And I'll take the quarterback out of it because we know that Levis, I mean, we're going to be doing what we do every year, and that is Levis was 7 of 11 today and threw for 3 touchdowns. And the next day he was 6 of 15 through 2 interceptions. What does it all mean?
Right.
We're going to get into all that stuff with Levis, but what do you think the most over-discussed / topic of Titans training camp that we're all going to be sick of by the time like August 25th rolls around will be?
Well, I do think L'Jarius Sneed's availability comes to mind. That'll be very interesting. How much does he practice? It's going to be a daily thing, right? And it'll probably be some missed time, and so there'll be a lot of complaining on our forum and others, different times of the day more than others, and then a lot of from him, I'm fine, and this is so that one will get a little bit old. I also just think the offensive line, just the daily, and it's important. It's hugely important, but it's the same thing. It's like Levis was this or this. Oh, Latham got beat by Arden Key at an inside move and whatever, right? Just the offensive line, I guess the right tackle competition, if there's going to be a competition, and then the left tackle performance day after day. First-round rookie, is he ready to actually play left tackle in the NFL? T'Vondre Sweat, Skylar just put that on the text line.
That's my answer.
Okay, that's certainly his weight, his participation, all these things. There's my 3. Yeah. Even though I just borrowed the T'Vondre Sweat from Skylar.
The Sweat, I think, is going to be from moment one. We're going to be talking about how does Sweat look? Does it look like he's lost any weight? Is he in shape out there? Can he stay on the field? All those things. And look, I'm not saying that those aren't valid conversations to have. I just I think we're going to see a lot of it. You've talked about how important he can be on that side of the ball, and I agree. You know, the Latham thing just kind of is what it is. Now, the one thing I'll say about the Latham part of this is I don't know that we're really going to know anything about him until the actual games get here. Like, you can say that to a certain degree about everybody, but like wide receiver, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, you could tell if somebody's got the goods. Like, it didn't take long for AJ Brown in the training camp for people to be like, yeah, you know, he might be pretty good. So like, you can tell when some of those guys have the goods. We've talked about this. Like, when you're just not hitting all that much and the pads aren't on all that much in training camp, it's tough to really know until you get into the games. All accounts are, based on what we've seen at this point, that Latham has been unbelievably impressive. So I'm sure I have no reason to think that's not going to continue into camp.
Yeah, but I mean, if he struggles again, we did see, you definitely saw Andre Dillard, you know, in camp last year. You saw some issues.
We saw that,
and you could have talked yourself into, oh my God, Arden Key is actually an all-pro who just keeps bouncing from team to team, but they just don't know what they had. Or is Andre Dillard going to be a problem? And of course, he ended up being a problem. So it's even without pads, you still are doing pass sets and things like that, and you can get a little bit of an idea. And you know, the just like always, the practices with the other team. What do they have this year? They got Seattle. Is that the only joint practice? Two days with Seattle. Is that right? For some reason, I thought they were doing two teams, but I guess not.
I guess in the actual training camp portion, it's just Seattle.
Yeah. So get Jamal Adams out there. Just,
I mean, I'm looking forward to
dominating against the Seahawks.
Could get a little spicy out there.
Could be. So, and by the way, Skyler said Devondre Sweat will be most talked about by Jared. Could be, although I think Snead could be in there, man.
Or
don't sell Snead short.
Alden in Nashville says Jared with the same story about the right tackle and telling the Floyd story 1,000 times of
right.
We don't have a right tackle.
Yeah. By the way, like, I mean, I like the story, but like, why is that relevant?
I guess you're saying they don't have a right tackle.
One year, you don't. Again, if you're just horrific, and I'm trying to think of, like, that was just a terrible offensive line, right? I mean, they had nobody at all, right? Like, that was like
they had faced the franchise tag a little while.
That's right. As a rookie or something? Wasn't it
second year maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, they do have like NFL quality players, I think, at right tackle. We'll find out. That's another. I mean, look, right tackle and MPF in particular. He is a big story of training camp.
No doubt about it. 615-737-1025. What is your top storyline for the Tennessee Titans as we are now 1 week away from the beginning of training camp? 615-737-1025. Take your thoughts on that. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Game Summer Ticket Tour is back. Join our own Joe Dubin at Yazoo Brewing Company at 900 River Bluff Drive in Madison this Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. as he gives away tickets to upcoming concerts in Nashville, including Def Leppard, Bush, Train, Dierks Bentley, and more. Also get signed up for the grand prize, tickets to a Preds home game, Sounds game, and to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/tour. Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee will join us here in about 15 minutes or so at 7:30. We'll get into all things Vanderbilt football with him. Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up at 8 o'clock. Right now, taking your thoughts on the Titans. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Your top storylines for the Titans heading into camp. We brought up the J.C. Latham part of this. I think you could just group in Bill Callahan with all that too, right? I mean, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Bill Callahan, the impact he's going to have on Latham, the impact he could have on right tackle with Nicholas Petit-Frere. I said last week, if I could pick a breakout player for the Titans this year that I feel best about, it would be Skoronski. Like, I think Skoronski should, given the situation around him right now, have a big year. And when you drafted somebody at number 11 overall, they need to perform well for you, especially at that position. So I've got high expectations for him heading into this season. I do think on the back end too, I think an under-discussed move, because the Snead move was made so quickly after that, a Woozy and the type of player that he is, I can see several days coming up to training camp where all we're going to be talking about is, especially when they're all on the field, if that's the case, man, did you see the matchup between the Titans' top 3 receivers today and their top 3 corners? Like, it would be that is a matchup and a storyline that I am very much looking forward to heading into all this.
Yeah, the best on best of the corner, even the individuals and all that stuff, pretty good, no doubt. Of course, again, is Snead out there? Is
right.
he practicing? Are we watching him? Are we actually watching him press Hopkins? That'd be great. I'm here for some Snead pressing Hopkins in team, or pressing Ridley in team. Sounds great. But Awuzi's good for sure. McCreary looks great out there, so that will be good. Yeah, I mean that's typically. I mean, you can see some other things. Right? You can see how linebackers are moving and how backs are running, I guess, and the safety situation will be very interesting, of course. As we've discussed, is Jamal Adams a starter? Is he competing with Molden to start, or is he sort of just a sub package specialty kind of player? Is there anybody else who is back, is pushing? I mean, I think it's going to be Molden with Hooker, but that's a hugely important position. It really is. It's not a premium position, but if you're bad at safety, you're good elsewhere, and that can still cost you.
Do you think – look, I know Brian Callahan framed it as a quarterback competition for the number 2 spot between Rudolph and Willis. I don't know that I actually believe that. I mean, they didn't bring Mason Rudolph in to be the third-string quarterback, so that's probably destined to be Malik Willis as your number 3. I am interested to see how they handle quarterback. Like, does Brian Callahan look at Malik Willis and say, you know what, there's enough there to where him being on the practice squad, us having to elevate him if we need to with the new quarterback rules, we feel good about that? Or do they say, you know what, it's a new regime, we didn't draft him, Rand Carthon didn't draft him, and maybe there are other quarterbacks around the league that you could take a flyer on as your number 3 later in camp? I'm interested to see what this all means for Malik Willis, and when we get to the end of this camp, what his role is going to be.
Yeah, I think he'll be on the team. I mean, I think that Malik Willis, considered as a starting quarterback now, is like, no way. But Malik Willis as a third quarterback, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, again, I watched Mason Rudolph. I'm with you. I don't think it'll really be a competition. Also, Mason Rudolph. It's not like he's – I know we got some serious fans like, watch out, Mason is taking over. No, he's not taking over anything. So is there a chance that Malik Willis could come in gangbusters and actually compete with him? Maybe. I think he'll get some reps, but I think he'll be on the team. I think as a third option and as practice squad guy and just another security blanket. It's worth keeping him.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I mean, the Rudolph part of this, I was a little underwhelmed with it's not like he's not a bad player. Like he has come into the game and won games for Pittsburgh before. So like asking much more than that to be serviceable as a backup quarterback is asking a lot. Like, the Ryan Tannehill as your backup quarterback situation just doesn't happen very often. So I fully understand that. Like I recognize that heading into this year. I still wonder if that's the best option that the Titans could have gone with. Selfishly, I was rooting for Jameis just because anytime I get to hear Jameis talk, it'd be cool with me.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up in Cleveland. But, you're hoping to not have to see Rudolph or Willis in an actual game this year. You were hoping that last year, too, with the quarterback situation. We know how bad the line was. With that being, we think, improved heading into this year, it's a big year for Levis to stay healthy. If he doesn't, though, like, do we have confidence? Let's say Levis is out for a month. Because obviously, if he's out for anything longer than that, that's bad news. Let's say he's out for a month. Do you have confidence that Mason Rudolph is good enough to keep your head above water for 4 games? Can he do that for 4 games?
I mean, he's had some good moments. He's had some stretches where people did think maybe this guy's gonna make a run, and then no, he's not that. He's a backup. It's possible, but it's the answer to that is so much about what's around the quarterback, right?
Yep.
Like, they have a defense keep score down and keep him in games. Like, will he have protection? He has good receivers.
Yep.
Pretty good backs. So, yeah, I mean, I think he could game manage his way to a couple wins if you're decent at enough spots, which we don't know yet.
Yeah. Ben on the text line, what percentage of fans do y'all think are oblivious to the possibility that we don't have a starting caliber quarterback on the roster? I hope we do, but too many people are taking it for granted. This is from Ben on the text line. Well, if that's the case,
yeah, then you're going to stay.
And not even Will Levis is starting quality, well, then you're going to be every bit as bad, if not worse, than most of the NFL media at large thinks you're going to be heading into this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think fans aren't oblivious because the biggest thing that anybody talks about is finding out about Will Levis this year, right? If you're finding out about someone, then you have to recognize that possibility, don't you?
Yeah.
I understand there's some people who think he's going to be an all-pro this year. Sure. I'm sure that people think a lot of things, but I think most people get that. Lenny says release Malik. Why though? I mean, why is it so important to release Malik Willis? I mean, first of all, teams don't just go with 2 quarterbacks in a camp. They go find some scrub off the street or Scarbini. That's one of the Jared words I like, as opposed to anywho. Don't ever say anywho ever again. No one ever say anywho. Okay.
There we go.
But why release Malik? I mean, he's a very good third quarterback. I promise you, he's not a starter. We understand that. He's a very good third quarterback. The backup quarterbacks in this league are trash. Do we not understand this? There's like 8 good ones.
Well, he may not even be a good backup, but a good third string, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
He's trying to, Malik Willis's quest, the realistic quest is staying in the league and demonstrating that he can be a reliable QB2. And I don't know if he'll do that, but as a third quarterback and heck yeah. Why would you release him? It makes no sense at all.
Well, the only way would be if there's somebody that comes available at the end of camp that you feel better about.
Yeah,
that would be it. But
sure.
Until then I'm with you. Like, you don't release him just for the sake of releasing him
because you're mad they drafted him, or
right.
because he's not a starter. We understand that he's QB3.
We would all still agree that if there comes a point this year where you had to start Malik Willis at quarterback, things are probably not going to go very well. I think we all recognize that.
He almost beat Kansas City, but yes,
he did.
He almost led a huge win on the road against Kansas City. He almost outdueled Patrick Mahomes, but no one remembers that.
He did.
Threw a couple nice fades that night.
That was a rough one to watch from an offensive standpoint.
Yes, it was. Maddie says if Levis goes down for 4+ weeks, we should reach back out to Tannehill. Probably won't come back. Worth the call. He'll be somewhere. I don't know where. Yeah, unless he's actually gonna hang it up. But gosh, I'd be surprised by that. Maybe that's more of a consideration than
He's
you
made a
realize.
lot of money.
Yeah, his career earnings are high, and he definitely is. He's not super healthy. I think you saw that last year, but I still, man, yeah. Someone says, "How's Tannehill not a backup?" Again, I think how is Tannehill not a backup somewhere? Because he wants to be a starter somewhere. I think that's why. And now it's kind of like, okay, so are you gonna go? There's teams that would definitely love to have Tannehill as QB too. I promise you this.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee. SEC Media Days coming up this week. So Clark Lee checking in with us beforehand. We'll get his thoughts on all things Vanderbilt football. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. College football right around the corner, thank God. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. Clark, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing so well, guys. How are y'all doing?
We're great. Appreciate you
Good.
taking time to be with us. Great to talk with you. Clark, obviously this time of year, I think every year really exciting, but a lot of new things coming our way in your program this year. What's the offseason been like, and how excited are you to get things rolling here over the next few weeks?
Well, the off season's been it's been a season of change. We've had a lot of new faces on our staff, obviously on our team. 53 new players, which is not something that we've done in the past, but I think that is what engaging in what football looks like in 2024. I've been really pleased with the strides we made in strength and conditioning and in our weight room this summer. I think the additions of Tim Beck and Jerry Kill, have helped both strengthen our operational systems. Jerry's eye is scrutinizing everything, which has been a great boost to me. And Tim with the offense, I'm really pleased with where we are there. And I don't know that there's a football coach in the country that's not excited this time of year. So, but certainly we can look at the changes and say, we feel like we've gotten back on track with progress and looking forward to taking this team into competition this fall.
So, Clark, I know you've talked some about, bringing in Tim in particular, Tim Beck and his offense, watching the win at Auburn and how impressed you were, and then you sort of dug in on it. A couple questions on that. First of all, how would you describe what he does offensively? And then with Diego Pavia, of course, quarterback of that offense coming in, you have Nate Johnson also. Is it fair to say that Diego is QB1 right now?
I would hesitate that, obviously, because I wouldn't be a good coach if I showed all my cards right now. But,
it's media week.
That's right. I'm going to wait up until the last moment to make a determination there. Diego, is obviously a unique talent. He's, he's a guy that's insanely competitive and just has an incredible competitive drive that the kids rally around them. And you can see that already taking place in our building. With Nate coming from Utah, it's got the physical skills and tools there are at an elite level. And he's learning this system and growing into a leadership voice. And those things take time, but I've been pleased with his progress. And we got, Blaise Berlowitz too, who's going to be in competition, and Drew Dickey. And we went from really having a quarterback room and this was necessary, guys, because it's a new system. So we wanted to build that room around what Tim wanted to do with the offense. And, the guys that we brought in have the athletic ability to extend plays and to do some things that Tim wants to do. They also have the ability to throw the ball down the field. And when you talk about what Tim's doing offensively and what the offense looks like, it's, there's multiplicity to it. I think it fits what the vision of a Vanderbilt football offense should be. You're talking about a guy who, engineered the number 14 rushing offense a year ago and the number 12 offense in yards per play. And, to do that, you have to create space for your players. You have to keep the ball in play. There's got to be creative aspects of the design where you're using formations and motions to try to create gaps in the run game. What I think is unique about Tim's system is you have all these run aspects that are challenging, but he really learned the air raid system when he was at TCU, and so when we run pass Skelly against them, we're seeing every concept that we'll see in the fall. So I think there's a lot to it. You have to be really skilled as a teacher and a coach to get those things taught and executed. And I've been really pleased with the progress they've made so far this summer.
So Clark, we know you've always been involved on the defensive side of the ball, but kind of taking full control of that heading into this year. When you look at your defense and the style and just your checklist of things that you want to see happen this year, what does that look like? What do you want kind of the identity, the formula of this defense to be?
Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is I really haven't been directly involved. I think when Jesse got here, year one, we spent some time on the front end, just blending kind of the things that he was bringing from Baltimore with some of the things we did at Notre Dame, and talking through kind of what the foundation of the package would look like. But what I've done in 3 years is I've taken a lot of my time and put it towards trying to get some of the peripheral systems and engines running, and I've needed to do that. That doesn't mean that I haven't given my opinions or sat in on meetings at times and challenged some of the things we're doing, but it's a much different world when you run the defense versus when you're kind of managing all three phases. So we have a lot of progress that we can make. I think if I were going to tell you what I didn't like or what I felt like needed to change, our ability to challenge space. We have to limit explosive plays. We have to be able to spread the hard down around in terms of the scheme. We can't sit in middle open cover 4 and think that that's going to be a winning formula for us in this league. We have to be able to close the middle of the field. We have to be able to at times overload protections and take the hard down off the corners at times. And so I'm getting into some football jargon, but there were things that I think in terms of our system, we weren't flexible enough to do the things we need to do defensively to win. And so what I want the fans to see is a fast, aggressive, fun, physical group that's out there playing the game they love and doing it together. And I think good defense is inspirational. I mean, you can sense a connectedness. Again, you can sense an attitude and a physical presence. Those are the things that I'm really interested in having show up. My job is to make sure we're doing the things schematically and tactically that are allowing our players to have success. And so I've had a blast, guys. I can't tell you how reinvigorating it has been for me to be able to connect with these guys and teach again, just to teach and train and share that passion with our players. And, I've been able to grow closer to the team because of the work that I've done with the defense.
Talking to Vanderbilt coach Clark Lee. So Clark, doing this now, what are you taking time away from? And I guess, is Jerry Kill filling some of those duties in a way?
Yeah, I think first of all, heading into year 4, I've learned a lot about my role, that I don't think you can learn from daydreaming about being a head coach. You have to be in the seat to actually understand what it is that you're here to do. The first thing is I got to drive alignment within our program in all areas. And so whether that's academics or nutrition or strength and conditioning or certainly offense, defense, special teams, that we have to be pointed in the same direction. And so, to understand that and to realize how I can use my energy efficiently to ensure that that's happening, that takes time, but it doesn't take all day. I can have checks and balances and staff meetings where listening to the guys talk about their areas, listening to progress or seeing progress being made in areas, we can make changes more quickly and rapidly because we're more efficient with our time. What really becomes kind of different for me is the amount of time that I'm dedicating in addition to that head coach responsibility to mentoring the defensive staff. And so maybe a year ago, I would have spent time mentoring all three phases. And so taking my time on, hey, what is a play we're running? Why are we running it this way? What are we going to do when the defense does this? So on and so forth. I will see our offense in competition, but I am spending the time that I have in terms of our tactics on defense. That's where Jerry comes in and is able to do the same thing for the offensive staff. And so really mentor those coaches and ensure that, again, the systems are running and they're aligned and there's a shared understanding of what we're trying to accomplish on that side of the ball. And so he's been a huge assist that way. I don't feel like I need to sit in with the offensive staff and watch film. Obviously, Tim Beck has a ton of experience, including 10 years as a head coach, but I've got peace of mind that that operation's running really effectively, so that I can dedicate my time and attention to the defense. And that's really been the big shift. But I think Jerry's also had the ability to come in, and we feel like we're building a program from scratch here. At Vanderbilt, there had never been an operation that was at the foundation going to lead to sustained success. And so the goal here wasn't how fast. The goal is how effectively and how long we can make this thing last. And so what is necessary in that approach is that you scrutinize everything that touches the program. We can't make any assumptions that any of our systems are functioning at the level they need to function at. And we've made a ton of progress in our first 3 years with respect to certain aspects of the way that we support our players, whether it be through nutrition or just different expectations with respect to how we support them in their academic journey too. But Jerry's really been helpful to me to come in and just really take a look at all of those things and say, hey, here's where, we have alignment. Here's where I feel like this seems to be really effective. Here's where we need to address some things that maybe are a little out of sync with the vision of what we want to build. And, again, that's given me some peace of mind too, to have kind of that external perspective from someone who's done it at a lot of different places, to say, hey, these things look really good. Here's a couple places we need to strengthen just to make sure in time this program grows to the level that we want it to grow.
Okay, Clark, one player Vanderbilt fans don't know that they will know relatively quickly early in the season. I know coaches hate questions like this, but giving it a shot.
Oh, Lord. I mean, there's so many guys that I'd want to talk about. And I'll tell you, I've been so pleased with – I'm going to give you two just to be fair, one on each side of the ball. There's so many guys that I think deserve, the excitement to be built. I think we'll have plenty of time to talk about everyone through fall camp. Zaylen Wood, who's a defensive line transfer from MTSU, is a guy who, we were really blown away with on film, just in terms of seeing him play against Missouri, seeing him play against Alabama. He's a twitchy, 290-pound kind of Swiss Army knife up front who can do a lot of different things. But we call him the Tasmanian Devil. He's just, the engine never stops running, and I'm super excited for him. I think he's going to have a chance to have a great impact for us, and I think that our fan base is going to love to watch him play. And then, offensively, we've added a ton of really great players. We've strengthened our offensive line. Obviously, we've talked about the quarterback position, but Eli Stowers is a guy that I just feel like he's playing tight end. He's a guy that can do a lot of different things. We can line him up on the perimeter. We can line him up in the backfield. He started his career as a quarterback at Texas A&M, and so he was at New Mexico State a year ago, and they did a lot of different things with him there. But Eli is a guy that I believe will be an NFL player, and he's come in and been a great fit for us. But I think that's someone who is going to create advantage for us on offense, and I think our fan base will be excited to watch him go.
Well, Clark, we're really excited to see it all take place and come together here over the next few weeks leading into the season. I appreciate so much you taking time to be with us this morning. Thanks so much, Clark.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. And the only thing I'd complain about is we got to get this thing moved back to Nashville. I mean,
That's
how
right.
nice was it last year to actually sit in person and do this?
That's right.
And
Exactly.
So maybe I'll do some pushing while I'm here.
That's true, but you can get some Pecan Lodge barbecue down there. So, there's always a plus side.
Scholl didn't tell me about that, so let me get on him about that. I'll make sure we get some barbecue today.
Get some takeout coming back to Nashville. It's worth it.
Gotcha. And then swing by the office.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we go.
Now we're talking. Thanks, Clark. Really appreciate
good to be with you guys. Yep.
Absolutely. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt head football coach, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Welcome back to the Fat and Bald Show. See us more now. Son, you just listen to me. Things are going to be fine. That's really the general takeaway. It is that time of the day, time for the Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode. You can check it out every morning, either the Rob Rant or the Rex Rant. Haven't had it nicked off in a while. Keezer's a little bit too.
Also, why'd you take away the pound sand thing from the Rob Rant? I like the pound sand thing.
Huh?
It just played.
It just played. Yeah, what are you talking about?
I didn't hear the pound sand thing.
We need to get you some new headphones this
Put on
week.
your headphones a little too late.
We are a mess.
We are. Lots of
My
stuff going
brain
on
doesn't
right
work.
now. Yeah,
You can't breathe. My knee's sliced open. It's bleeding. It's awesome.
great stuff on the program today. First, I have a two-part rant. Both of them involve the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, so I still can't get over last week going through the Super Bowl odds and the Raiders having better odds to win the Super Bowl than the Tennessee Titans with their quarterback situation and really their whole roster. Like the Raiders just don't seem like they're going to be very good. I'm glad that they've got who's their quarterback, Gardner Minshew, this year. So that'll be good. Looking forward to that heading into it.
Almost took the Colts to the playoffs.
That's just kind of the first part of it. Like, looking at that last week, the Raiders at plus 10,000 to win the Super Bowl. So it's not like they have great odds. But then Washington and Tennessee right behind that. Washington at plus 12,000 and then Tennessee at plus 15,000. Interesting stuff. I think the Raiders are going to be terrible. That's just me. I mentioned last week that I watched Receiver on Netflix, and it's got Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I really enjoyed it. I love kind of like the behind the scenes stuff. So I finally got a little bit deeper into the series, and the episode that really kind of hones in on Devontae Adams, it's pretty interesting. So as we know, Jimmy G's the quarterback there last year. Didn't go very well. And Adams is mic'd up for a lot of this.
I know what you're going to get. Yeah.
And he gets overthrown a couple of different times, but eventually just says, quote, "This is effing pathetic, bro. Just throw the effing ball. I'm tired of this BS," and slams his helmet on the ground, all this stuff, starts talking about how the quarterback can't hit him. And then basically later in the show, they ask him about Jimmy G getting benched. And he's like, "Well, yeah, I signed off on it. So we're all good." I was like, "Oh, okay." So lost apparently. And he talked about Jimmy Garoppolo being a great guy, but a quarterback, which he's not wrong.
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying, like, it's funny to me, and he's gotten a lot of flack over this online too, like the way that he was handling the quarterback situation. And I realize that he went there partly, number one, because he wanted to be in Vegas, but number two, he did have a very good relationship with Derek Carr, and now Derek Carr's gone. So I understand that. But most of the flack that Devontae Adams has gotten, and it's kind of where I stand on this, when you actively choose to leave one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, regardless of what you think Aaron Rodgers, when you actively choose to leave one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and you complain about quarterback play, which, by the way, the money was more in Green Bay, so it's not like you took more money to go to Vegas. Like, it's difficult for me to have a whole lot of sympathy for you complaining about your quarterback when you just voluntarily left one of the greatest to ever do it. So he's getting a lot of flack right now with this receiver stuff coming out. It's pretty interesting to watch.
Be careful what you wish for, kind of thing.
Yeah, it is.
But it's also, I mean, I'm sure he would take Derek Carr, right? Like,
I would assume.
What were the Raiders doing? Because Derek Carr is not great, but Derek Carr is better than Jimmy G.
There's no doubt.
And Devontae went to go play with him.
Yes.
Right? So he didn't sign off on that part.
He
didn't sign off on that aspect of what's going on with his organization.
I would think not.
I thought you were going to bring up, because I saw a thing on Twitter where it's like something like basically like, "I've never been put in harm's way.
He's never been hit this much in his life."
Yeah. The whole like, he's trying to kill me.
Yeah.
With his bad passes.
Well, and then there was, this golf tournament that happens in Lake Tahoe every year that somehow Vrabel finds his way to, which he did again. Saw some
smoking
videos of
those
that.
stogies.
Yeah. No, Rodgers finds his way
Unfiltered
there
Camels.
every year too. And some like random person caught up with Rodgers this weekend on camera he was like, "Yeah, I love Devontae Adams. Looking forward to playing with him again." And everybody's like, well, "What does that mean? Like, you're not playing with him right now." So is Adams going to get traded to the Jets? That would be interesting. I don't know why he would say that. Like, he just came out and said
He was
looking
on
forward to
shrooms.
he may have been looking forward to playing with him again. What does that mean? You're not on the
Wow.
same team right now.
Interesting. It is tough, man. It is tough to see. You said it last week. Devontae Adams was the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I think he's probably he's slowed down. He's not as good, but still, this is an example of a special talent. Just it's like when the Sacramento Kings would have great players here and there, like you wouldn't know because they played for the freaking Sacramento Kings,
Right?
And that's not what the Raiders are. But when you suck, it's wasted years of a great player. It's too bad.
Well, and I would agree. He's probably not as explosive as he was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He is still only 31. Like, he should be
Still
I think he's
good.
still a really good
Really
player.
good. Yeah.
And you're in a quarterback situation right now that's just terrible. And look, I get it. Like, and he's found a way to be, for the most part, productive regardless of who the quarterback is. So he's a great player. I mean, last year was a quote unquote down year, and he had 103 catches for 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. So I'm still a pretty darn good player.
Mm-hmm.
But it's noticeably different when you don't have that type of quarterback throwing you the ball, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe Minshew. He'll probably like Minshew better than Jimmy G.
I would assume so.
So maybe they'll make some magic.
At least if you're open, Minshew will probably hit you.
You would
May
think.
not do anything spectacular, but he'll probably hit you if you're open.
Does AOC have a chance to win that job?
I'm sure he does. I'm sure it'll be a nice competition. But I don't feel great about that quarterback situation. Whether it's Jimmy G or Gardner Minshew or AOC. Not a great spot to be in if you're the Raiders.
It's too bad, Devontae.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. Corey Curtis from News 2 will join us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. And as we do every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, we welcome in our friend Corey Curtis to the program from News 2 on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Corey, good morning. How are you?
I'm terrible.
Really?
I'm terrible. Yeah. I didn't sleep well, and now my coffee machine's fighting me. It's just a bad day.
Wow. Bad start. You have it, or is this
do you want a rant?
Machine?
You can have a Corant.
Ooh,
I'm just going to suck for the next 12 minutes, and then we'll move on.
That's good. It's good to know.
I want to match the rest of the show, so let's do it.
Nicely done. That was good. We talking Keurig here? Or what are we talking?
Yeah, it's a Keurig. It's a pretty red one, and it's fighting me. It's gone. You know what? I think Skynet took it over, and it said, "Screw you, Curtis."
Yeah, maybe so.
Poison.
AI's gotten a hold of my coffee machine. Damn Apple.
Oh, man. Corey, what did you make of the signing and the fit of Jamal Adams with the Tennessee Titans?
I still got to see he's going to make the team. I mean, the guy's play has dropped off, right?
There's no
he's
doubt.
not younger. He's not younger. He's older. It's a low risk, high reward play. We've seen the contract numbers. I mean, I don't want to say they got him for free, but to me, that's worth the risk. If you get a shade of what he was, on the field, it pays off for you. He certainly, knows Denard Wilson and fits all that. And, he's going to be a downhill player for them, especially, in the run game. I mean, who knows if he'll even be in on third downs. So, they obviously have an idea of what they think they can do with him, but they weren't willing to pay to try to make it work. I mean, this is another deal where Rand Carthon waited a guy out and then, got the deal that he wanted. And, I always think that the money tells you a lot. And, the money tells you a lot that they'll try him, but they weren't going to go bonkers for him.
Do you think they should still do more to address that position, Corey?
I think if you can get a better player, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole idea of roster building, right? You get better players than the ones you got. And I mean, I guess that's kind of crass for the guys that you got, but and obviously you've got to make it work under the cap, short term and long term. But, I like Elijah Molden. I think he's a heady player. He's got a nose for the ball. He tends to make stuff happen. He did get through last year healthy. But that doesn't mean you can't do better. And with Elijah Molden, with Jamal Adams being a $1 million a year player, basically right now, it tells you can do better than that as well. Because what did they say in Moneyball? The money says what it tells every player.
Yep.
That they're worth it.
So, Corey, we are 1 week away from the beginning of training camp coming up. Outside of Will Levis, which is the obvious here, what is one or two storylines that intrigue you the most kind of heading into this?
Well, that left side of the line with Skoronski and Latham. I mean, I want to, they need that group, that pairing. Obviously they're going to get better over time, or need to get better over time, but they need those two to be dominant. They're both, basically top 10 players in the draft. I mean, that should be the corner. That's for sure. And then, there's the middle. I don't worry about linebacker in the middle as much as everybody else does, because there's a lot of guys who can stop the run. But who's going to pair with Harold Landry? Is Arden Key going to be a guy who can step up and be a more consistent player? If you think Rashad Weaver's going to be more than he's been, I think you're just hoping. So, what's going to happen on that other side? Is somebody going to, step up? Is Caleb Murphy, is Thomas Rush, are one of those guys going to surprise? Because, Caleb Murphy's a guy who had, 22 sacks his last year. And I know Thomas Rush is a guy who has looked good at times at practice, and he was a really high valued free agent for them last year. I think out of Minnesota. I think he was their highest paid undrafted player. because they wanted him. And so they haven't done a lot at that spot. Do they like those guys, and can one of those guys get on the field? That's going to be interesting to me as well.
At this point, who would you say, if you had to bet money, Corey, on production between the backs?
I like to bet money.
Yeah, well, let's throw some down. Who are you betting on in terms of Spears, Pollard? Who has more touches and more production?
That's, you know what, we last night on Sports Extra we played over and under, and Vegas has Marcus Pollard at over under 725 for the year on the ground. And Samaria and I were split. She said over, I said under. I don't know that there's going to be the touches for either one of them to go over. I mean, there might be. But when it comes to backs, and I'm going to go against my money says a lot thing here, because Marcus Pollard's getting a lot of it, which still surprises me to this moment. I like fresh legs for running backs, and Tajay Spears has fresh legs, ligaments or not. And so I'm going to say Tajay Spears.
Okay.
I think I'd go with you. I think I would do the same.
I'm going Pollard. Going Pollard. But I think it's going to be pretty close. Like, I think it's going to be pretty interesting there.
Let's be honest. It's probably going to be the guy who stays healthy.
Well, there's definitely that as well.
I mean, I guess the question
you could make the case either way on that one.
You could.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that was the point. I was going to say, well, Pollard's coming off an injury. I go, well, Spears only has 7 of 8 ligaments. So
what? Okay. So, we know Ridley's getting paid a lot of money. We know he had over 1,000 yards last year. It was a good year for him in Jacksonville. What's next for him? What sort of a year does he have to have where you look at him and say, yep, he was worth the money? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a specific stat line, although it could be if you want to do that. But how do you view what success looks like for Calvin Ridley with the investment level the Titans have thrown his way?
Well, Calvin Ridley was our first up on over-under.
Okay.
And his number this year, and you guys tell me, I found these numbers to be laughably low for a guy who's getting, $24 million a year? 70 catches, 875 yards, 5 touchdowns. To me, the only way he doesn't get 875 is if he gets hurt. That's the only way. Because they are not paying him $24 million a year to go under 1,000 yards.
I would agree.
The only way is if he gets hurt or if Malik winds up at quarterback for most of the season. And so I just, for him, to me, he's got to be the Titans' number one. He's got to be a guy who makes some plays to win some games. And, that's taking a 20-yard pass or a 10-yard pass and making it go 50. And he's got that kind of speed and he's got that kind of ability. He needs to be a difference maker for them. He can't just be a guy. He can't just be, 65 catches for 850 yards and, 3 or 4 touchdowns. They need more than that. They need him to be a difference maker. They haven't had a lot of those in the receiving game. One of them plays for the Eagles now. And the other one does another show on your station.
Yep.
So, they haven't had a lot of those guys. They need him to be one of those guys. That's what they're paying for. And that he's shown he can have that kind of ability. He's not in tier 1, he's not Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson, but he can be tier 2 or 1B or whatever you want to call it. And they need him to be that. And I think he can be. I mean, there's some questions about how well they used him in Jacksonville. I question, I think we differ on our opinions of Trevor Lawrence. I question Lawrence's, consistency and ability to get those guys the football all the time. And so, that's on Levis. Levis needs to be good. Levis needs to get him the ball. Levis can't miss when he's open, running down the field, like that Treylon Burks play last year. He's got to hit those because that's what Ridley's there to do.
I feel about tight end.
Okay.
Now, how do you feel
What
about
about-
tight end?
I said, how do you feel about tight end?
He said it
Oh,
very
how do I
fast.
feel
It was
about
a very
tight end?
rushed question from Rexrode. He's fired up.
It's okay. I'm
Someone
used
let
to.
Corey
I
cook.
was looking at his hands. I was distracted.
Well done.
I'm trying to stop that.
It's all right. I talk with my hands all the time. I had this fight with Jared. He thinks that the Bengals offense uses the tight end a lot more than I do. Because he contends Hayden Hurst had a monster year last year, that year that he was there, when his numbers were in fact lower than Chigakonquo's were last year. That was not a monster year. They
Facts schmacks.
the fact that their only tight end addition was Nick Van Nett, right?
I believe that is correct. Yes.
I think that tells you about how they feel about the tight end position. They're not going to run two tight ends or three near as much as we've seen for the last decade here. Because Malarkey, loved the tight end, used the tight end very well. Now he had Delaney Walker in his prime, which certainly helped.
Yeah.
Because he was arguably the Titans' number one. But they're going to use one tight end a lot. There may be times when they use no tight ends. And so those guys won't be on the field as much. Especially won't be on the field in multiples as much. And, I think you like Chig's athleticism still. You want to see development there. And I think there's some hope for Josh Wiley developing in his game. And then, Nick Van Nett is kind of a safety blanket, a bigger, more prototypical guy. And I just think it tells you they're not that concerned about it because it's not that huge a piece of what they're doing. And, I'll be surprised if it is. That doesn't mean Chig's not going to get the football, but I don't know that they're going to set that much up for him. And I don't know that there's that many plays to set up for him when you're trying to get the ball to Ridley and you're trying to get it to Hopkins, and you're trying to get it to Boyd, and you're trying to get it to Pollard, and you're trying to get it to Spears.
It's a great point. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. We'll take your reaction to what Corey Curtis had to say. Corey, great stuff. As always, we wish you the best in your continued fight against your Keurig coming up next.
For a guy who's got off to a rough start, I was really pretty awesome for the last 12
You really
minutes.
were.
And I'll just say you're welcome.
You exceeded my expectations, no doubt.
I hear that all the time.
Hey,
Yeah.
there we go. There we go. Thank you, Corey. Oh, boy. Corey Curtis never fails to disappoint, or never disappoints.
Put some
I
blue,
said never
put
fails
some
to
blue chew
disappoint.
in that coffee
Yeah.
maker, Corey.
I think I'm going to stick with that. Corey Curtis never fails to disappoint. We'll put it on a T-shirt. Take your reaction to what Corey had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Appreciate Corey Curtis from being with us in the last segment. We're taking your thoughts on the Titans on our phone and text line. We'll get back into a little college football coming up here in just a few minutes. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Robby, man, we're getting so close to football, dude. I can't wait.
Right around the corner.
Joe, I'm glad you asked the question, man. So you asked him about tight ends. I kind of worry about that a little bit just because I think when I think of like any type of good football team in the NFL in the last 20 years, they almost always have a good tight end or at least somebody who you know their name. They don't have to knock your socks off, but they're solid, right? And we don't have any – like I don't count Chig as a tight end. Like I'm just like he's not that good. He's proven nothing. Like he's the starter, but he's proven nothing. So I worry – I mean, who's the guy – for a young quarterback on this team who's going to run the right route and catch the ball 10 times out of 10. I think it's D-Hop, but like, I think you need somebody within 10 yards that can do that. So I worry about that position a lot in this offense, man.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Adam. How important? So Corey, I mean, the vibe I got from him was he doesn't think tight end is going to be very important at all on this team. And I understand the thinking behind it. You've got your 3 receivers that we've talked so much about this offseason. Brian Callahan's coming from a place where they didn't use tight end a lot. Now they did, when they had Uzama, it's not like they just avoided the tight end position. I mean, when you had a good player out there, they threw him the ball. So it's not like they're allergic to throwing the football to the tight end in this system. Like, I am curious to see how much the tight end is used. I'm curious to see how much both get on the field. And I don't know, like, is he the starter? Is it Wiley? Like I don't know. I don't know that Chig is going to be in situations where they've got one tight end out there. I don't know that's always going to be Chig at this point.
I would guess. Yeah, I think it's very close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Wiley starts. I mean, they'll probably play similar number of snaps most weeks would be my guess. But I kind of lean Jared's way. I haven't heard their entire argument. I don't think it's actually. I guess I kind of disagree with the whole argument. I don't think it's about system. It's about, do you have a great player or not? Do you have a player that, I mean, tight end is in the offense. If they had a great tight end, I think you'd see the tight end used a lot, right? I mean, if you're not a coach who does that, who reacts to what you have and builds things around that and just says, our system does this or that, then you're a bad coach. And he's not a bad coach. So I disagree with the premise of the argument. Now, I do think that this personnel at tight end is underwhelming and maybe they won't be used a lot, but also – tight end, man. Tight end in football. It is always important. Throw to the tight end. And also your tight ends need to matter in the run game. So if you're just bad at tight end, then that's unless you run the run and shoot, my beloved, Mouse Davis run and shoot the Detroit Lions with no tight end and 4 receivers every play, then tight end's important.
Yeah, they need a Wiley or a Chig to step up. And I'm not saying they've got to have 700 yards receiving this year, but to be reliable. When the ball's thrown your way, catch it. When you've got an opportunity to make a play over the middle of the field, make it. In the red zone, I think, is where tight ends can be really effective, right? Like they need one of those 2 guys, preferably both, but at least one of the 2 to be an effective weapon for you in the red zone where space is limited and where it's just harder to fit the ball in those tight windows. And we went through those red zone stats. We know Will Levis very accurate with the ball in the red zone based on the stats that Warren Sharp threw out there last week. We need to see one of the tight ends really, I think, step it up. Look, Chig, I thought Chig was bad in the first half of the year last year. He dropped way too many passes. I did think he got better as the year went on. The one thing with him from last year that was really disappointing beyond the drops was there wasn't really very many explosive plays after the catch like we saw his rookie year. So is there more of that this year? When they do get into the football, can he make plays with it, break some tackles, and get down the field like we saw him do his rookie season? Or was that just kind of a flash in the pan and it's over? Like, it's based on what he showed on some of those plays, it's hard for me to believe that skill set has just disappeared on him because we didn't see it last year. Like, it's got to still be there somewhere.
Yeah, and he was one of the – we always talk about Traylon Burks and, Arden Key and some of these things from last camp that were deceiving, but Chig was a huge one. Chig and Tim Kelly's offense in the spring and in camp last year was making all these big plays. And it's like, so yes, he absolutely has the talent to make some big plays. You have to be good enough in line, and that's where maybe Wiley is the choice over him a fair amount of the time. But he has the talent to make plays. He has the talent to at least be not a star necessarily, but a tight end who you got to have something from that position. As someone pointed out, we've talked about this, like Wes and Clarksville, Mahomes and Kelsey. Go to the Final Four last year. You got Kelsey, you got Kittle,
Laporta.
Yeah, Laporta's really good.
Yeah.
And who am I forgetting? Well, you have Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews.
I mean, my goodness. A tight end who can basically post up, find space against zone, but also just post up against a defender and just, not allow, basically box out and give you 6-7 yards every time.
Excited about the SEC football, the form coming in this year. How do you view the changes coming to the SEC? We'll take your thoughts on all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away to see John Fogerty at First Bank Amphitheater coming up on August the 7th. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see John Fogerty at First Bank Amphitheater August the 7th, 615-737-1025. Joe, the SEC Media Day is going on right now. They got Feinbaum on TV down there in Dallas, getting ready for all this stuff. We had Clark Lee on earlier, if you missed it.
Look at that smiling face.
Holy crap. There's Nick Saban, live from SEC Media Days as well.
Doesn't he want to
Look how happy he looks to, like, not have to,
answer these dumb questions?
These
he gets
questions.
to ask these dumb questions now.
Does he have a spray tan?
Are we fully in the mix of a world where Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are right on the way to becoming media darlings here? It's kind of hard to think about.
I mean, is Belichick doing something on Nickelodeon? In Mickey Mouse Club?
Welcome to Nick Jr. There's Bill Belichick over there.
Slimed. I got slimed. By the way, Keezer just asked if he's spray tan. I invite everybody. I've said this before, but I invite everybody. I've said everything before at this point. To go find a picture.
Well, when you have a successful radio program, that's what we do. We
That's
repeat
right.
things every now and then.
We do. Go find a picture of Nick Saban from like his first year at Michigan State in 1995. He looks 20 years older than he does right now.
There's no doubt. There's there's clearly some nice coloring of the hair that takes place.
Well, again, go back to 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep. That's confirmed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good for you, Nick.
And now he's talking about Alabama.
I'll tell you what, and I hope this is true of Belichick, because I think he's been pretty good, right? When he's had a chance to analyze.
Yes.
When he's not playing Duck Duck Goose. So I think that Saban is really good. I think Saban's really good as an analyst.
God. I was thinking about that all weekend. Man, you think Belichick's like making a TikTok right now? What's going on? Is Belichick standing in line at the mural down there in the Gulch?
Oh,
trying to get his picture taken?
Oh, man, we could do this all day.
Your thoughts on the SEC? So we threw this out there earlier. No divisions this year. Texas and Oklahoma are coming in. We've known this. We've talked a lot about this happening. Is it a good thing? Like, are fans in the SEC actually excited about this? Are they excited about Texas and Oklahoma coming in? Are they excited about the fact that the divisions have been eliminated and you're just going to see, quote unquote, the best two teams in the SEC title game? Or do they hate it? Like, do college football fans, do SEC fans hate kind of the format that we're going to see this year? Because if you just go on the surface of it, there's some really good games in the conference this year. I mean, we get Georgia and Alabama, Georgia and Texas play each other. Obviously, your traditional matchups like Alabama, Tennessee plays Oklahoma. There's a ton around the league this year that's going to be great. So the games themselves look awesome on paper heading into it. Do we like the elimination of the divisions and the addition of Texas and Oklahoma in terms of like your SEC fan? Does that get you excited about this year's college football season beyond the obvious of just rooting for whatever team you root for? Because there's, I think, natural excitement that comes from that anyway.
Yeah, it's a good question. Personally, it's all very dumb, but Texas and Oklahoma are great program ads. The 8-game schedule is very dumb.
Yes.
The SEC championship game, I personally think championship games should be dinosaured out of here, and we'll see if that happens moving forward. I think the playoff is destined to get it's not going to go to 64. It's not going to go to 32, but I think 16 is probably the long-term landing spot for it. Right?
I agree.
It just seems that
Now,
seems
if it gets any more than that,
right.
we're going to have big problems.
But even if you get to 16, okay, so you're talking about a champion, then that means no buys, correct usage of buy. It's a tournament. And so you have no teams that every team would have to win 4 games to win a championship. And then you have a 12-game regular season schedule.
Yeah.
So, kill the conference championship game. Not there are some people. I don't know. Did people like the tradition of the East and the West? I mean, you had that for a long time.
I mean, I did, just to be honest.
Yeah.
Personally, now that's all pretty much all I've known
Yeah,
as I've watched college football. So it's just kind of that's what it's been.
it's way different in the SEC than the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Big Ten only started a championship game in 2011, and they started with legends and leaders as their division title. I
Yep.
thought they should have gone with geniuses and heroes, but they went with legends and leaders. And then they switched it up. And there's no tradition. You can do whatever there. And you're not trampling tradition. The SEC, they've had a championship game since what, 91, 92, right?
I believe so.
That's tradition. But also, this sport is crapping on a lot of tradition
It is,
in the last decade plus.
which a lot of people don't like.
Right. So, but that to me is where it should go, I think, is get rid of the conference championship games. I mean, you have a bunch of these teams are going to be in the playoff. It's already been playoff focused with a 4 team, which is part of why I supported the larger playoff, because it's already completely dominates the discussion. So if that's the case, then you have a champion, and some years it'll be a tiebreaker, and yay, put up a banner, and then move on to the good teams in your league are in the playoff, and let's see what happens.
Do you believe, I've heard a lot of people say this, and I don't know that I totally buy it. I could see the idea behind it, and we'll see how it plays out. But do you believe that the changes to college football, both in the SEC, but really from a national level, is going to create more interest from more parts of the country? Everybody says that, right? If you get to the 12-team playoff, you'll have more people watching around the country rather than just in the South or in the Big Ten. Somebody put up a map last week of teams that have won the national championship in like the last 20 years. And outside of Michigan last year, Ohio State, like it's pretty much all down here. And I mean, it's no surprise the SEC's won a lot of national championships,
including Clemson. But
so
yeah,
it's
still
Clemson, it's Alabama, LSU, Georgia. Like it's a lot from down here.
Yep.
And people say, well, most of the country, by the time the playoff came around when there were 4 teams, just isn't all that interested in watching college football anymore. Now, the ratings have been great, and there's been a lot that's been really good, but do we believe that this is going to lead to either longer interest or more interest in the product as a whole around the nation, expanding this thing to 12?
Well, I think that, I don't know, but I do think that you want to try to engage. You don't want big areas of the country like not interested in. I mean, obviously, you've got Oklahoma. I mean, now they're in the SEC, but now you're heading west, right? You've got obviously Texas. One thing I learned in really like going and covering some of these games out there. I've covered a game at Oregon. I've covered, Rose Bowl. I've been to Cal. Like the passion for college football out there, even like with Oregon's a great program. It's a great atmosphere, but it's just not like there's just other stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not the same. It's just not. It's not the same level as here. But the Midwest is, and there you go. There's where your concentration of interest and all that is. You go to the Northeast, and I mean, in some case, like they don't even know that college sports exist. Yeah. It's about pro sports. So I don't know that you're like going to change but I do think you don't want to lose whole regions of the country. I think it's still going to be incredibly popular, and it's going to do very well. I just think I think the 12 makes my biggest benefit for me is like more games matter. Some games that used to be for everything aren't, and I get that, but there are more games that will matter. I mean, that's not disputable.
Tyler on the text line says, tough for Vandy. They used to be able to convince themselves they were just the worst in the East, and now they will for sure be the worst in the league. This is from Tyler on the text line. Vandy's catching some shade.
Vandy's getting some people jumping all over poor Clark Lee too.
They were.
I thought he had a good interview.
I thought he did too. Jeez.
But hey, take shots at Vandy Day.
I mean, yes, I would say as we sit here today, Vanderbilt will probably be the worst team in the SEC as a whole.
Yeah.
Although, I mean,
that's I mean, on paper, you'd have to think that. I don't know that Mississippi State will be very good.
That's the next team I was looking at.
But yeah. But at the same time, I will say about Vanderbilt, I mean, this quarterback and the OC and everything, and I mean, it's a very new, different team. and maybe they'll shock, and win, 6-7 games. It's at least interesting. Like, you don't know what's going to happen with them, which is some years you more do.
Yep.
So there's my sales pitch for Vanderbilt football 2024.
We don't know what will happen.
They might not completely suck.
It was interesting to hear Clark Lee. If you missed that interview, by the way, go check it out. Robby and Rexrode, wherever you get your podcast.
Yeah,
It was
he
interesting
even
to
told
hear
us about
him.
some players.
He told us about
very
players.
Interesting. Yeah,
It was interesting to hear him talk about the defense part of it, and how he went a little bit more into the detail about how specifically his role has changed. And maybe, I kind of led the question off by talking about, he's always had a hand in the defense. I mean, he's the head coach. So in some degree, he's had his hand in everything. But he was basically like, oh, no, not really. Like, now I'm like fully involved in the defense. It was interesting to hear him kind of talk about that.
yeah. That's like, you want to empower your coordinators, let them do their thing, right? But
Right.
if he's the coordinator, then it's going to be way closer involvement. It's going to be interesting. Again, this offense, I'm very interested to watch this offense operate and how creative it is. And Diego Pavia is a very exciting player, without question. And maybe that's what it's going to take. You got to have somebody special at quarterback. But Eli Stowers, remember that name? Sort of a chess piece tight end that they also got from New Mexico State, here at New Mexico State Northeast. New Mexico State Northeast.
I guess it is Northeast.
NMSUNE.
615-737-1025. More of your thoughts on the SEC coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Joe, let me ask you this. We talked about Texas, Oklahoma coming in. Let's eliminate, for the sake of this discussion, all current coaches and the history of what they've done here. Where's Tennessee? The Tennessee job in the SEC now, where does it rank as you look at the programs that are in, with Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas, and Oklahoma coming in, Florida? Is Tennessee the 7th best job, 8th best job? How do we view that part of it with these other two programs coming in?
I mean, there's a lot of things, like coaches would go through this and they'd talk about who's the AD, who
Sure.
you're working for. They'd talk about what's the president like, what's the board like, is everybody on the same page? They get things done? Is it infighting? All that stuff, right?
What's the NIL like? All
Well,
that stuff.
certainly.
Yep.
But I think, I do think with that, it's kind of, I think there's a certain level where, if you're even in the discussion for one of the better jobs, you got that in pretty good shape. So, I mean, a lot of people talk about Georgia as the best job. Some of it is like nearby access to talent, although it's really not an issue for Bama, but they just go wherever they want. Georgia, Alabama, and Texas are the best 3 jobs. Because, again, Oklahoma, even though we talked earlier about them being a better program, I mean, Texas is in Texas.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the top 3 producers of high school football talent. It still matters.
What about A&M? Did a better job than Tennessee?
It's close. They've got money, man, but also
Great academics.
they do. Just ask Jimbo. Their
Great academic institution, ain't it?
Kinesiology. English department is very good, as Jimbo demonstrated. I would say Tennessee. I think Tennessee is a little bit better job than Texas A&M. That's a really interesting debate, but I think one problem for Texas A&M is they aren't the dominant program in their state. Texas is.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. We just talked about Saban and how he looked like he was 73 when he was at Michigan State. Michigan State's a good program and it has a lot of resources, all that stuff, but Michigan's down the road, and that is still, and that's the Texas A&M issue. But like, what else would I put ahead of Tennessee? LSU.
Yep.
Probably Florida. So Georgia.
So Tennessee like the 10th best job.
Okay, so
SEC.
well, let's do it. Okay, Georgia, Alabama. I'm going to put Florida.
Okay.
LSU, Texas. See, it's like, I mean, Oklahoma's really interesting because it's the tradition and all that. I guess Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So that puts them 7th, right?
believe so.
How's my math?
Yeah.
7th. It's about right. It's upper half. But again, if you're Tennessee with the resources they have and all they have going for them, and I think a big change with Tennessee is Chancellor down right now. They don't seem to have the board stuff going on, so it's moving up. You got an AD who prints money, so I mean it's moving up. But I think 7th is probably reasonable. That shows you how strong the league is, right?
Exactly. Well, that's what I said.
It's insane.
Heading into all this, like, your job is harder. I mean, you could make, somebody would say, but in the same breath, like your league just got more difficult, and who you're directly competing with just got more difficult with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. I mean, there's already, the Georgias and the Alabamas that you have to contend with. I mean, I guess the good thing is, let's just take Tennessee. Like, you're not going to be playing Georgia every year moving forward, which has been a big problem the last few years.
That's a good thing.
I think you are going to be playing Alabama every year, although we'll see what that ends up looking like when the 9-game schedule comes around, which I do think is coming at some point.
I think no matter what, that one will be preserved.
Yeah. So I think Alabama, you're going to be seeing them every year. But That's, they're really intriguing this year. Alabama to me is more intriguing like for the next 4 years than they are just specifically this year. Like I still think they're going to be pretty good this year. Can DeBoer keep that going over a sustained period of time? I think he can, but you'll have to see it. I mean, it's not going to be Saban. Like it's not going to be what it was there. But can he keep it going at a reasonably high level over the next 3 or 4 years? So, like, there are Tennessee fans that have made the argument that with the NIL, with the 12-team playoff, even with the elimination of the division and Texas and Oklahoma coming in, that they're better positioned now to win. I could see the argument on both sides. I just know that if you care about the conference title game, which I think less and less people are, it is. There's no question about it. It's harder to get there now. Like it's harder to get to the conference title game, and with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, that's 2 teams, 2 elite programs that you're having to deal with for those spots in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah. And that 3-way tie at 7-1 for second place. Just wait till all the tiebreakers come through. Oh, yes. And again, it's like everybody will be screaming about something that's just an appetizer to the main event anyway.
Exactly.
Caleb says they have also Maryland cheerleaders talking about Texas A&M. Don't all schools have that?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, all schools do not have the Yell team.
Squad, though. The Yell squad.
The Yell team is its own thing, baby.
And I agree, Caleb. They are super cringe. That is well put. And I know what that means, which means I'm not a boomer, right. Even though I hate these stupid uniforms.
You do. Georgia this year, they just flashed it up on ESPN a minute ago, like plus 330 to win the national championship. So they will be the national championship favorites this year. Do you have a dark horse SEC national title contender? Is it Tennessee? Is it LSU? Some people say A&M. I don't know if I'm going there.
I mean,
they still got a lot of talent on their roster. But.
Well, I guess it's like how what would qualify as a dark horse? Does Texas qualify?
No, okay. I would eliminate Georgia, Texas, and Alabama from the discussion. Anything beyond that, I think would qualify.
Well, I'd look at Tennessee and Ole Miss. I just don't know with LSU. Totally. You're trying to revamp that defense, and you got Nussmeier at QB. I just don't know. I have a little bit more certainty about Nico. And certainly I know Jackson Dart's good. So those would be my 2.
I would throw Tennessee in there. I'll tell you another one that I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, they've got an experienced, good quarterback coming back. And number 2, their schedule's not bad. Like it's an SEC schedule, so there's some challenging games on it. But go look at Missouri's schedule. I mean, you have Alabama on it. You got Oklahoma on it. Other than that, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M. Like they got a pretty, in terms of like today's model, they've got a pretty manageable schedule.
They got kind of a sweet deal there.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you're them and you take care of, obviously you avoid any upsets. You take care of business and you lose those 2 games, you're in the 12.
Like I think they're going to be favored over Oklahoma. Like I think they're a better football team as we sit here today on July 15th than Oklahoma is. So let's say they win.
That
every
might be a little bit of a hot
favorite.
take.
I don't think so. Like I think you're going to see them. I mean, I can tell you they got better odds to win a championship than Oklahoma does, and that doesn't mean everything. But I think you're going to see them favored in every game except the Bama game.
Will they be favored at Texas A&M? Kind of depends on how Texas.
It kind of depends.
Depends on how Texas A&M starts.
Right.
But that's obviously a game that could get them.
And that could be a toss up either way. I mean, look,
but
it's college football.
You're right. They're set up here.
Right. Like it's college football. We see upsets happen. So like, they could go to Auburn and lose or have Auburn come beat them in Missouri. I have no idea. I'm just saying like from a schedule setup, they're like the anti-Florida. Not quite the anti-Florida, but it's not good.
Right. They don't have just an insane. I mean, the toughest stretch is, I guess Auburn at Alabama, Oklahoma, but still 2 of the 3 are at home.
Yep.
You're right, man. You've talked me into it. Missouri's going to the playoff.
Eli, we'll see how it goes.
Joe? He'll be insufferable.
That does it for me this week. You have a great rest of your week.
What a great work week for you.
Really put in the work this week. Teron Davenport will be on the show tomorrow. Paul Kuharski, Wednesday through Friday. I'll see you guys next week. Chasing Big Joe up next. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.